We're on.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah. Welcome back. Welcome to version 4 of Staff Picks. And it's not just Iris and me now, but we've got Natali. Hello, Natali.
Hello, everyone.
Come join us. Natalie's author of Good Girls Die Last. It's behind you there on the wall. It's good.
It is.
And
on purpose.
video.
Little spoiler.
Careful, or you'll end up in my novel. That's
oh shit!
Warning to everybody that's meeting.
Yeah.
Then I tell you what. Should we immediately start off with some books? How about Iris?
Oh wow! You're really throwing me into the deep end here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have a few books. Let me pick some that our beloved, esteemed colleague Emma recommended. It's actually a series. I don't have like the physical books with me because they're huge. It's the Welcome to the Museum series from the Royal Botanic Gardens, and they're like these huge, massive hardcovers, and they all have titles such as Fungarium, which is about mushrooms, and Anatomicum, which is about the human body, and like Botanicum and stuff like that. And Emma says that the design is a little reminiscent of kind of the old Cabinet of Curiosities style museums. It's very, very visual. They'll be great for gift season as well, which is coming. Get ready. And there are also miniature editions if you don't want to have like a massive, like poster sized book. If you're giving it to a kid who has small hands, maybe get the miniature edition. I don't know. And there are also postcards of the art available because it's very beautiful. And Emma says that the Botanicum ones especially are quite popular. So that's my first for today.
I'm looking for a picture. It's called Welcome to the Museum.
Well, that's the series, yes, but there's individual installments. I don't know.
I want to share the screen. Here we go. Share the screen. Let's do that, and let's see if we can find one. There's Welcome to the Christmas one. Animalium. My good.
I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce it, but sure.
Animalium is pretty.
Yeah.
Botanicum, Dinosaur. You were talking about those books anyway.
Yes, yeah, the pretty ones. Look at those pictures.
Pretty. Oh yeah. Oh, Fungarium. There we go. There's the Fungarium.
Yeah.
Nice. Ooh,
yeah, I can totally see that they would work really well as postcards as well.
Yeah, and she's got them all out for Christmas. You reckon? Are they there now?
I mean, it's going to be a while until Christmas, but I think it's good for like a gift idea vibe.
Yes. Okay. Good. All right. Well, we'll move on swiftly then to let's see. I've got. I'll do a one. Deadly Education, actually, which I have in my bookstore here. Deadly Education from Naomi Novik, and this was. Have you got? Oh, you got it there as well. Have you read it yet?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Well, have you read this, Natali? Do you know about this?
No, I know, but I know she's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those books we were talking about just before about it kind of crosses over. It's like, could it be YA? Could it be fantasy and stuff like that? And this is actually in the fantasy section by us in the American Book Center.
Oh.
And Floris was just saying he really enjoyed reading it over the summer, and for coming back to school kind of times, which is what we're kind of talking about a bit. This is a kind of good one. It sounds to me a bit Hogwarty because it's all about being at a school.
No, it's not. It's not everything that's about a magic school is like Hogwarts. It's quite different. It's a lot darker and a lot sassier.
What we've got you for? What do you think of it then? Because he was saying like it's like where they're going to school and the kids are learning, but they don't have teachers as much.
No, it's like a sentient school in sort of a pocket dimension situation, and it's very much sort of like evil is kind of bleeding through, like there's all kinds of creatures and curses and stuff, but there's also a lot of competition between students. They're also very much like competing with each other to sort of get out on top, because once they finish school and get out into the real world, it's sort of very important that they get in with like a good plan, because otherwise they'll be unprotected, basically. So it's very funny, but it's quite dark and like serious in many ways.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. Lesson 1 of the Scholomance. Can you?
Oh my God, why are you so bad at this, Luke?
Can't read anything. Lesson 1 under the Deadly Education. Lesson 1.
No, it's called Scholomance.
Scholomance. Okay, there you go. Scholomance.
Dark academia in fantasy is really big. Lee Bardugo's whole series has got, the kind of magical university as well. And
Tips and tips, get some ideas. So that was Floris's suggestion for reading, and backed up by you, I guess, because you liked it as well.
Yeah, I did. It's first of 3, and the third one is also out. So like you can binge the whole thing if you want to, which is something that I always like to do. So
you binged and you enjoyed.
Look, if I don't, then I forget what's happened by the time the next book comes out, and I'm like, oh shit, now I have to reread it and then get into the next one. It takes too much time.
Yeah. Are you an avid reader as well, Natali?
Yeah, I don't think you can write if you don't read. The problem is I don't read as fast as I wish I could. And my attention span's quite bad, really. So I tend to have more books than I can manage. And then I'm a glutton, because then I'll say to people, oh, I'll read that book before it comes out. And then they send me all these advanced books that I'm all excited to have. And then I don't read them fast enough.
Oh, yeah. Although it seems like that's part of the psyche of a book lover, is to actually have not a wardrobe, I can't, my English, a
bookshelf.
Yes, thank you. Bookshelf. Help me along here. To have a bookshelf full of books, which of course you love, and then like a section of them, a third of them maybe, are books that you haven't read yet. And then
half of mine is. I counted once, and I think I had over 100 on my Kindle and another 150 on my shelf, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to read 250 books in my lifetime unless I just stop buying books, which is also not going to happen. So they're like a comfort thing. They just
at a certain point you have to you realize, hey, I don't have to be like ashamed of not having read them all or something like that. It's just like that's your stock for for the coming
for rainy day.
Dresses I buy, exactly. But I do sometimes read half a book and then I'll just read the end. And
oh really?
Yeah, I do. I know.
Wow.
Because I can't get through it. So if it's a good book, if it's a terrible book, I'll just completely like DNF it. If it's an okay book, I'll read half it and I'll be like, okay, I really want to get on to the next one, so I'll just skip it and just read the end, and I'll know roughly. It's bad, isn't it? I just, otherwise at least I can then say, well, yeah, I read it and it's really good and I'll recommend it. I just not gonna, it's a bit like fast forwarding a movie. I just can't.
Wow.
I know, right? How awful is that? I think I just don't read fast enough. It's not that I don't have the time. I literally take too long per page. So other people, oh, I read a book in a day, and I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Some people can read fast anyway. I mean, I think they just skip a lot of stuff, and then it's just like, I'll do that occasionally if I find it's too flowery with the wording and stuff like that. I'm more like a content guy. I kind of like reading what's going to happen next, rather than the size of his earlobes whilst he was pondering the question of
life. But I did calculate it the other day, and I do think about 30 or 40% of books I don't finish.
Wow.
Because they're just like, okay, I've got another one I need to get on with. So if I've read the entire book and I've loved it and I give it 5 stars, that's quite rare. And this year I've only done that to 3 or 4 books. I don't publicly rate them, by the way, because I don't think it's fair for an author to do that, but I have it in my little book. Just so that, I like to gauge what I'm enjoying. And it turns out I enjoy books that are nothing like the ones I write. So there you go.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah. And talking of books you've written, let's talk about the book you've written. You've got, let's show us one. Show us a copy of it, because it looks.
Show it to the people.
It's the girl version, the big version. So it's a hardback. The paperback is out in end of December, 28th of December. It's called Good Girls Die Last. It's my first thriller. Previous to that, I've written fantasy and paranormal romance under different names. But Good Girls Die Last is a feminist thriller set in London during a heat wave, and all of the public transport closes down. Em has to get from Trafalgar Square, where she works on the Strand, to City Airport, which would normally be like 40 minutes on the tube, no big deal. She can walk it in 3 hours, but there's a serial killer on the loose. So the majority of the book is M's battle to try and get to the airport to go back to see her sister for her wedding and her mum who's unwell. So she really needs to get back home to Spain. And there's a lot of people getting in her way, not to mention this constant threat of a serial killer. And then something major happens, which basically changes the course of history. So it's a very gripping thrilling, powerful, pretty feisty book. Yeah.
Feisty. I kind of like the idea that the feminist side of it as well. I was trying to think of any other books in the genre of thrillers that are like that, but I nothing comes to mind too quick.
Well, I mean, my comp, I was saying when I kind of comped it and I was talking to my agent and editor about it, it was basically Falling Down, the movie, meets Promising Young Woman. So that whole kind of, and once you say those two things, everyone knows what they're getting. So she's really having a hard day, and then she snaps. So there's a lot of tension, but I was so lucky because I got some of my favorite writers ever enjoyed it as well. So there's blurbs here from Leslie Cara, Andrea Mara, Kirsten Miller, loads, Heather Darmont, Holly Seddon. So I was over the moon really when these other thriller writers that I really love said nice things. So
yeah, that's good.
And you're expecting to write more in the genre in this
as Natali Simmonds, I'm writing more thrillers, and it's been optioned for a TV series. So I've been which is a first for me and incredibly exciting, and I've been working with STV in the UK, but it's early days yet, and as you know, these things take a long time and who knows what will happen, but so far so good. So hopefully it'll be on screens in, I don't know, a few years. I don't know, things take forever. But yeah, I'm working on other thriller ideas that can't talk about yet, but there will be more of this. What's going to happen. It's a very kind of visceral, tense read. Some people did say it made them feel quite kind of anxious.
Oh no.
What thrillers?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's good, right? That means that you're writing it in such a way that it really evokes those feelings. Because
it's really hot as well. It's a heat wave and she's walking.
Yeah.
So everyone was saying like it was really quite intense, but it's also very strident. So it was a lot of fun. It was one of the fastest books I've written as well, actually, because I am half English, half Spanish. I did live in London most of my life. I have suffered at the hands of not very nice people at times. So there was a lot, I think it was like 20 years of pent up frustration I wanted to express. So it was the fastest writing I've ever done, I think.
Yeah. Nice. Did you find that difficult or different? It must have been different, but in what way was it different from writing the fantasy books that you wrote?
Yeah,
you were with us a couple of years ago promoting your fantasy books you had.
Yeah, The Pathkeeper and Son of Secrets and Children of Shadows. They were a lot of fun to read. A bit younger, not quite YA, but I'd probably say new adult if you had to categorize it. And because those books are about, there's like a whole angel realm and it's all past lives. I had to do a lot of historical research, had to do a lot of world building. So they're longer as well. They're like 140,000 words. They're big chunky books because fantasy is at least like 30% describing stuff, right? Whereas thrillers are like choppy, fast paced. So that's the difference really. Fantasy is very, lots of kind of not flowery language. I don't like to kind of over describe things, but much chewier, when you're writing, you can really get into what people look like and their feelings, and it was more angsty, and also fun because I had to come up with whole magic systems, so it takes longer. That's the difference. And research, because there were past life flashbacks to Roman times and to the Blitz during the World War II and the witch hunts of the Netherlands, actually. So I think to some extent fantasy, especially historical fantasy, is harder to write because you've got to put a lot more research into it.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it sounds like you have to do a lot more work before you can get to the telling of the story.
Yeah, whereas thrillers, you're like, okay, in my case, it's normally a woman and she's somewhere and some crap's happening to her and she needs to kind of get away from that crap. And it's much more about structure and pacing and keeping the reader connected. So it's two different things that you're trying to achieve.
the world has already been built. People know London, and
Yeah, it's set during present times, exactly. Whereas with my co-written stuff that I write as Cadis Knight, again, that's also another challenge because I'm writing with Jacqueline Sylvester, a good friend of mine, and trying to write one story from two brains. That's like a whole different process.
Oh.
So I get bored easily, so I like to challenge myself. So I never just write one way with one type of book.
Yeah.
Plus, they're quite racy, so we're having to write kind of saucy sex scenes with your best mate, which is also
that's kind of weird.
we have fun, but it is a bit. Some people are like, really, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fun. We have a laugh doing it. So
yeah, bit of wine and then.
oh yeah, it's fun.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks for that. Let's move on. Iris, have you got another book in your list?
Yes. I have actually two from Naomi, who works in the Hague store, who is the buyer for, among others, the law and true crime section. But her true passion is romance books and romantasy books. And one of the books that she recommends is called Cursed Princess Club by Lamcat. And she says it is a graphic novel about a princess called Gwendolyn who realizes that her green skin and hair makes people think she is cursed, which I take to mean that she isn't actually cursed. It's just that people think she is. But either way, she receives an invitation to the Cursed Princess Club, which is sort of an after-school club where cursed princesses come to find camaraderie and acceptance. And Naomi says it's a very wholesome and gentle comic about loving and accepting yourself, and being kind to yourself and others and growing as a person. And I feel like that's something we all kind of are in need of in this day and age. So I feel like it's
my kid would my youngest would love that. She's really into graphic novels. She would.
Well, there you go.
Again, I now know what to get her for Christmas. Thank you.
That's why we do this.
I don't know quite what that means, actually. Do you?
What means?
It says a webtoon unscrolled graphic novel.
I think that means that it was like a web comic and then it got published.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As a physical book. I think that's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is how Heartstopper started, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Online, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Every day's a school day, Luke.
Hey, that's cool. And you also said romantasy at the moment. That's a new catchphrase that seems to be in.
Yes, we actually both in the Hague and LEIDSCHENDAM stores, we now have like separate romantasy subsections. Just because, if people are into that, it's nice for them to be able to go to one place and find all of those books together and then figure out, what they want to read next, instead of sort of having to go like on the prowl through quite a huge sci-fi and fantasy section for a few specific titles.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I don't read fantasy unless there's some big epic love story.
Really? Okay. Then you need romantasy. That's what you need.
And I wrote it, so that's all good.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of it in YA. Now they're bringing it into adult, which is good.
Yeah.
There seems to be definitely a changing around and emerging, and I mean, we're talking about the merging of those sections of fantasy and young adult and horror and romance. But with romantasy, it's kind of settling and becoming its own thing as well. It's dividing. It's big enough to make its own section, which is kind of, for me, it's kind of interesting to see that people are.
It's a reflection of the times as well, right? There's so much bad stuff going on. We all just need a bit of like cozy, fluffy escapism.
Oh, and cozy crime. That's another one, actually. I was just thinking about that. Have you heard?
That's not a new thing, though, is it?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's been around for like ever.
No, I heard it earlier this year.
Just because it's new to you.
Come on, he's not like, oh, I mean, now they call it was before. We've lost Natalie, but she's
no,
she's gonna come back, I'm sure.
Okay.
She had a frozen freeze.
Okay, maybe you should do a book in the meantime.
Okay, I shall do a mean book in the time. No, a book in the meantime. I'll do that. I don't know. I'll do Percy Jackson.
All right.
These kind of went together, actually, but the Philip Pullman and Percy Jackson. You wouldn't think so, but they do. But it's because Maria was going to join us today, but she was feeling ill, so she had to go home, and so she couldn't make it tonight. But she did give me, before she left, these two books that she would suggest for school buyers. Hey, she's there. She's coming in loud.
Oh,
Is she there? Is she there? Yes. Oh, right. Okay, there you go.
yay.
Can you? She's connected to audio. She'll be there in a minute.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, Percy Jackson. This is kind of weird and amazing because it's the latest one, and people who know Percy Jackson must be thinking like, but he finished, but he hasn't. Rick Riordan decided to make another one.
Surprise.
So that is apparently, again, going to school. It's like Percy Jackson goes to school and saves the world on numerous occasions for different gods and stuff like that. And he's brought out another book after, good knows, 10 years, something like that. And he's up to saving the world again. It's the last year of school. It says hoping for a regular final year at school, and too bad the Greek gods have other plans. Yeah.
Yeah. The world just keeps getting itself into trouble, doesn't it?
Hey, just needs somebody to solve it.
Yeah.
So she said it's a great read. It's just what you'd expect from Percy Jackson. So all of the Percy Jackson lovers among you, then this is for you. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it because it's like for young adults, I guess. It's a sort of it's sort of
I think in LEIDSCHENDAM it's in with the kids books, like slightly older kids, but children's books. And I think in The Hague it's in the YA section, sort of in between age wise.
There you go. Yeah, I think we've got it in YA as well.
Yeah.
Underneath Harry Potter. So it's it is a sort of slice of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've come out with these nice new covers as well, and they're all kind of like nice drawings, whereas before they were these kind of weird photoshopped people in a strange land and stuff like that. But they all look very nice. So as a whole row, then they look very nice to have.
Yeah, I like this one as well. It's very colorful.
Yeah. Natalie's struggling with her.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we can get her back.
Yeah, she's gonna have to get. Oh, yes. There you go. I
Still no audio though.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Hey, there it is.
This is so stressful. Sorry, my Wi-Fi completely went, and then I tried to get you on my phone, and I couldn't hear you. So that, anyways, come back again. Sorry about that, guys.
Welcome back.
While I was panicking and sweating. So.
I know how that is. Yeah. Help.
Oh my God, it's not working.
It's good. Yeah, I'm glad you made it back. Yeah. We're just talking about Philip Pullman. Also,
oh, yes.
As you do.
As you do. We're talking about Percy Jackson. Actually, that's a new one from Percy Jackson because he hasn't written anything for a long time. And the same thing with Philip Pullman. He hadn't written anything for a long time after his what's it called?
His Dark Materials.
Yeah, Dark Materials. And he's pretty old now. He's about 80 or something like that. He was doing a talk last year and he fell ill on stage. So they were like, oh my God. So they really want to finish the last book. So this is volume 2, because volume 1, the first trilogy, the 3 books, the volume 1 of this book is a prequel to that story. And then volume 2 is the first sequel to that story. And volume 3 is the second sequel to that story. So
I mean, we don't know that. We don't know anything about the 3rd volume yet. It could be about anything. We don't know.
Don't say that. We do. Oh my God. We might not know. It might never come out. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
But so this and this was Maria's like favorite trilogy when she was a kid, so this is just like extra treats. And she said you can read book 1 obviously, but you don't need it completely if you want to carry on with the sequel. You can just carry on reading this. There's a few characters that come in here which I mentioned in the prequel, but you can find out who they are from just this book. So they're her two sort of back to school kind of reads for young, from 12 to 15ish kind of books, I guess. But again, I think it's like Harry Potter. It's like you can actually read it at any age, because if you like it, then
I mean, you can read anything at any age. It's not
exactly.
The Hungry Cat.
You can do whatever you want, Luke.
It's
a free country.
You go ahead. Do your reading.
Okay.
Natalie, it's good that you're back. Are you back? Oh no, she's crashed.
Oh no, is it frozen up again? Oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, she's just oh damn it. We'll have to wait. We'll have to ping pong back to you. You're gonna have to tell us.
Yeah.
On your list.
Yeah. Okay. But as soon as she comes back, we should let her do some talking. Otherwise, it's just us. And who wants to listen to that? I have one of my own suggestions, actually. I had two, but one of them was the education, and we covered that. The other one that I wanted to talk about is Babel, which I think I've talked about before, but I'm not sure how elaborate that was. And with the whole sort of back to school theme, I thought it's so shiny. I thought that might be nice because this book is about a young, biracial student who comes to Oxford University and who sort of ends up as part of a group that instigates a massive revolution. It's very. It starts out very oh, it's so beautiful and learning is so nice and being among people who have similar experiences and worldviews. It's all so great. And we're just sitting on the green and we're having a picnic, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, it's everything has gone to shit and people are dying. And it's a very, very harsh criticism of lots of things. But some of those things are racism and institutional racism and elitism in the academic world. It's very hard because it's a chunky. She's a chunker, so it's hard to really sort of summarize it without giving too much away or going into too much detail. But it's such a good book, and the magic system is very cool. It's based on linguistics, which is something that I'm very interested in. So it's very, very nice. And it's such a good, the author does such a good job of making you go sort of on the same journey that the main character is going on. Because in the beginning, when it's all wholesome picnics on the green, as a reader, you're also like, oh my God, this is so great. I should go back to university and I want this experience. And then at the end, it's like, oh my God, I totally fell for it, just like the main character did, which is, I thought that was very fascinating and very smart, very well done.
Yeah, great. I was going to say, how was the writing? But yeah, you got pulled in.
Yes. Yeah, and one of the things that I really like about this book is that it has footnotes. It's a fiction book, obviously, but it has little explanations and sort of in-world footnotes, which I think is very cool. And that's something you don't see a lot. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, kind of intriguing about that. Natalie, you're back.
Sorry, do you know the entire Wi-Fi in the house has gone and my husband's come down and linked me to his phone and I'm sick. But anyway, I worked it out. Sorry, everyone.
You look very frantic there just now. But
oh my God, I was screaming at the children. Everyone turn your devices off. I'm live on YouTube, for goodness sake.
Well, it's the ABC way. It's fine.
It's me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to freak you out with all of this, but have you got your book? Did you want to share a book of yours that you liked?
Quickly before it honks out.
Give me 2 seconds. Let me go and get the book.
All right. Oh no.
Yeah, it's this.
Well, look, when has this show ever been polished? It's fine. It's totally fine.
Let's just do a dance. Well, no, we won't. Actually, your book reminded me of a book that I read, which I'll tell you about in a minute because
all right,
Natalie's back.
I'm so sorry, guys. I ran then. Right, which book are we talking about now? My book.
Now we've
done already. Are we talking about my favorite book? Or are we talking about my favorite book of the year?
Whichever you prefer.
your favorite book, and then we'll save the favorite book of the year for the end, I think.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense, actually.
I like that.
My all-time favorite book is an old this book. I don't know if you guys have read it. Obviously, they've made
Yes.
movies about it, and there's like lots of versions on TV. And I think it's because the first time I read it, and I haven't read it for a while, I just thought it was so clever. Because it's a love story, but it's not written in chronological order. And it's so angsty, and it doesn't necessarily, have happy bits in it. And it really inspired me. And it was that actually inspired me for my Pathkeeper trilogy, which was all about forbidden love and going back and forth in time and stuff. So yeah, that's one of my favorite books. That's the old cover. I think there's another cover now, The Time Traveler's Wife. So, I mean, I suppose you could call it romantasy to some extent because it's time travel. So it's sci-fi, but it's not, because it's like, it is as if, so this guy, he has a condition, it's a medical condition, and he can't help leaving this present time and either going back into his past or into his future. And sometimes he sees himself as a child, and all the way, as an adult, he went back and saw the woman he was going to be with as a child. And then as a child, he already saw her as an adult, and she's seen him her whole life, not realizing who he is until eventually they meet during the right time, but doesn't necessarily mean they can stay together in that time, because then he'll disappear again and she'll realize that's when he went and she saw him when she was 5. So the whole thing's not easy to follow if you like linear things, but I just thought it was very, very clever and very beautiful. And that's one of my favorites. And then this year I was very surprised by various books. I love writing fantasy and thrillers. Actually some of my favorite books weren't fantasy or thrillers. I loved Young Mungo. Have you read Young Mungo?
I haven't read it, but I've seen it around a lot. Yeah,
it's the two like teen boys kissing on the front. It's set in the 90s. Absolutely harrowing. Like, it's not a fun, I mean, I read it on holiday. I wouldn't say it's like a fun, jolly read. I've come to realize that I don't like fun, jolly reads. Some of my favorite books are the ones that have me like, geez. But and it's a boy, teenager, who's brought up in Glasgow, and there's a lot of division between the Catholics and the Protestants, a lot of political unrest, there's a lot of class divide, working classes and stuff. And he realizes he's gay, but at the same time, he comes from a really broken home. And it's his journey, which isn't dissimilar from the author's journey by all accounts. So that was a really good read. And then also this one, We All Want Impossible Things. I tend to see, I was saying to you guys earlier how like I sometimes, don't finish a whole book. Sometimes I just read half a book and go, right, that was good. Got another one to get on with now. I also buy books without reading the blurb. So I will buy a book without having no idea what it's about, just because at least 2 or 3 people have said, you got to read it. And that's it. So I go in completely cold. I had zero idea what this was about. I like the picture. I like cake. And it turns out it's a very bittersweet story about 2 best friends, and one of them's dying of cancer, which sounds like the most devastating, miserable book you can have, but it wasn't. It was beautiful, and it was funny, and it was heartfelt, and it was all about friendship and family and coming to terms with grief and loss, and it was just beautiful. A really, really clever book. So I enjoyed that. That was a pleasant surprise, even though maybe a bit triggering for some people if they've well, actually, no, I saw somebody on Instagram saying that, she'd nursed her husband through cancer and she'd found this book quite healing. But maybe others would find it quite upsetting. But yeah, it was really, really beautifully written. So they're the 2 books that have kind of going to stay with me this year, I think.
Yeah. And that was the book of the book of this year. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know I think it might have come out last year, actually, but I read it this year. I read it while I was on holiday in April. And Young Mungo, I think, also came out maybe a year or 2 ago, but I only got around to reading it this year. So that's a good thing about books, isn't it? They're new to you, even though they might have been on the bookshelves, a few years ago.
But exactly. About the contents of it, and you're taking it on holiday and reading it, but not necessarily a holiday book. But it was actually, you enjoyed reading it on holiday. It's the contents can be what you say, harrowing, difficult to deal with. But I think that's the beauty of books. Even over films and television, things like that, any other form of art, where the story, when it's well written in whatever form it takes, whether it's, you know, written to you or you're reading it in as the person, as it were, following the person, that you can get to really deep human emotions that are difficult to reach necessarily in just talking about things, but that it actually helps to or can help to heal, as you say. I mean, it can, as you say, it can also trigger, but whether you've gone through that experience or not, it brings things out in us, which, yeah.
That's the magic of being a writer as well. You underestimate sometimes the power of words. And when I have people say, like, your book got me through a really hard time, or you know, I came away feeling like this, or you had me laughing, or you had me crying, and you think to yourself, that's pretty powerful, really, as a writer, that you can instill emotion in others. And yeah, actors and musicians and other kind of artists do that as well. But I think that's a really beautiful thing that the AI won't get, you know, won't take away from us, because I think we do that.
That's the interesting thing about it, yeah, whether AI will do that, and it's like, well, it can do its thing, but I think that we will always have
to do that, no. And I don't think other people want a machine to make them cry. I think they want to know that a human was feeling those things when they were writing it as well.
Yeah, it's quite, I like that idea as well, because you as an author, you want to write a book, you finish it for yourself, but you also want to bring it out and touch people. And then there's the end of the road, the cycle, as it were, is that you hear back from them. You do want to find out what they thought, so that you touch. And it's the simple pleasure, if you like, of knowing that you've been able to touch somebody else, and that they tell you that this, and it's a very simple thing, but it sometimes takes ages to work that whole system out. A lot of people don't get that far. We in the bookshop are having workshops at the moment for writers, talking about how to edit your book, how to write your book, how to present your book to a publisher. You've already done that, you're further down the road, but and every time with a new book, it's a process that whether you stick with the same publisher or going through other publishers, but the whole process is trying to get to reach an audience.
And you're never safe either, by the way. Like, you know, no matter how established you are, whether you've got an agent, a publisher, that doesn't necessarily mean the book that you've written is going to be taken on by them. And even if it is, doesn't necessarily mean your readers are going to like it. So, but it's crazy, because like the idea that when I wrote Good Girls Die Last, that I was like, I'm angry, I'm going to write this. And then people read it and they're like, I've come away angry, I'm going to tell everyone to read this. And then they're like, yeah, now I'm angry. You know, like, it's so magical in a way. I love it.
Yeah, indeed. The magic of it. It's like, oh my God, you actually have an effect on it. And I to, as I say, me being a musician, the music is the background of your life, and la-di-da, what people say. But I think that books have a deeper connection. You know, the time you spend reading a book, you know, if you gobble it up in one day, or it takes, actually, what's an average time for reading a book for you? You know, for me, it takes 2 or 3 weeks maybe, and it's on and off.
Sometimes, yeah, anything. If it's really grabbing my attention and I won't watch TV and I won't stay up with the kids or my husband, then I might be able to read it in 4 or 5 days. And that's fast for me at the moment. But on average, it does take me about 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it's like longer than anything else, any other form of arts that you can think of, really. You know, you don't watch a film in like 4 weeks.
No, listen to a song. Exactly.
It's so small, you know. And we know that books can hold so much more information and stuff than a film does anyway. So there's something specific about books. Intriguing.
Yeah, and when readers, like, you know, they put little tags inside and they annotate it, and they come for a signing, and it's full of post-it notes, and you're just like, you're studying it. I had a student actually here in the Netherlands, I think she's in The Hague, write her dissertation on the Pathkeeper, my first book. And then I got to read it, and I was just like, this is really bizarre and wonderful and surreal, and like really humbling that somebody had studied the book and then written their take on the power of this, that, and the other. And it was quite a kind of feminist empowerment stuff based on my books. And I was like, wow, that's something.
Maybe some things that even you didn't think about when you were.
Yeah, I was like, really? I didn't think I was that deep, but clearly I'm smarter than I thought I was. So that's nice. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I can also imagine that when you are writing a book, that it can be quite that it can feel quite far removed from the reader. Because it's kind of, even like you say that you co-write some things, but even then it's just the two of you, and it's just something like, I can imagine that it feels quite private, and then at some point it's like out in the world and there's stuff happening with it that you don't know and that you don't have any control over.
Not yours
That must be so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's in your head for a really long time. Then you're sharing it with agents and editors, and they change it around. Then it starts to feel more like it belongs to the people. And then once it's out there, if they want to say it means this to them, and you're like, that's not what I meant, though, that's not your business anymore. It belongs to them. It's their book. It's their story. So that's a hard one. But I do think that if you can disassociate a little bit emotionally from what you write, you'll get further as a writer, because you won't read your reviews because you don't need that affirmation, and you won't get attached to each book because you've got no control as to how well it's going to be received. Really, you can only just write what you want to write.
Yeah, that sounds very, very smart.
Well, you've got to protect your mental health, I think, in any of the creative industries. Because you can't write because you need to be loved, because you've got no control. And the good thing is, if somebody hates it, I also think, great, I made you feel something. Still something.
Yeah, if they were like indifferent to it and went,
They said I've forgotten about it already, I'd be like, oh, excuse me. But if they're like, oh my God, I hate this. How one person described this book, I haven't had too many 1-stars, but they did describe it as extreme feminism, and I was like, yes, it is. Thanks for your 1-star. You've just sold it to a bunch of other people that love the sound of it. That's good.
Wow, gosh, that's an interesting insight. Actually, it's kind of nice. Partly what this is for, and what the American Book Centre is about, is actually is kind of sharing not just the books, but the writers with the readers, and what it feels like from both sides, from all sides, really, from the different various ways. Interesting.
I think writers are the biggest fans of other writers. That's the lovely thing about it, is that you'll never get anybody shout about a book more than another writer shouting about their mate's book or somebody else's. So you end up kind of, and some of my writer friends, I actually read their books, loved their books so much, I was like fangirling them, and now we've become friends. So that's like, it's really genuine, really supportive industry, because they're like your colleagues. You don't go to an office every day, but you're all in the same boat. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Again, I think when I was growing up with musicians, it was like I felt like like them versus me, or me versus them, and stuff like that. But with authors, because you're at home doing your own thing, I suppose it's like, oh, you come out of your holes, and it's like, oh, hello, and you kind of
I mean, you're all skin, and you're all like having nervous breakdowns, so you might as well be friends. If someone's going to buy one book, they'll probably buy another book as well. So you're not really in competition.
Yeah, exactly. You see it in totally different ways. It's kind of intriguing, and the types of people you are as well. It's like they're very kind of usually kind of relaxed people, but interesting. Shall we? Let's see. We're going through with the time. Is there any more on our list, Iris?
Yes, I have another one from the other Iris, who recommends Nimona by Indy Stevenson, which is not a new book, but she says that it had been on sort of in her periphery for a while, and she didn't read it until a friend handed her a copy this summer. So apparently that's also just how you can just give them a book and then the people will read it. That's just how it works. And she says that it has this big message about the importance of friendship and self-acceptance in an uplifting, upbeat, and queer positive package, which honestly sounds amazing. And she also says that she's recommending both the graphic novel and the animated film, because there is like a film version on Netflix at the moment, which I don't think is like sort of a exact, doesn't follow the exact storyline of the graphic novel, but it's like similar. It sort of takes the same elements and puts it in a slightly different format.
Yeah, that seems days anyway, like started off with Game of Thrones, where they started doing different things in the show than that were in the book.
I mean, she said it's brilliant. I might have to buy the book to go with it. It's a really popular show. She really enjoyed it.
Oh, you know, yeah. Is that it? That's all you have to say about Nimona?
Yes, it's really good. You should read it.
Good. All right then. Well, that's the end of pneumonia. That sounds good. Not pneumonia, but pneumonia.
Oh my God.
Sorry. Terrible. Okay, so what have I got? Oh, I got one for you.
Ooh.
Ooh, I was talking to Bobo today, Mr. Bobster, and I said, what would you recommend for if you're going back to school? And he recommended The Maniac. And you go like, what? Well, as you can see, big clouds of stuff going on. It's actually a fantasy biography, so it's kind of based on true retellings, but it's made up by the guy who's written it, Benjamin Labatut. I don't know. And it's about, if I've got my notes, about John von Neumann, who I have never heard of. But if you think that we've just got the Oppenheimer film that's come out, well, John von Neumann was also apparently busy with the bomb as well.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, really. Bring it down, right down. Sort of creative genius from the 20th century, also complete like child in another way, and had his fingers in lots of different pies. Originally Hungarian, and then he must have moved to America because he was working on the atomic bomb, quantum physics, weapons policy in the Cold War, and is also known for the early computing. In fact, the idea that the word maniac comes from the fact that the maniac was the first built computer, the first computer ever built in electronic terms. It built in the early 50s, and it's based on his computer design. So he's an amazing brain kind of guy, but he's also one of the first people to invent, as it were, the idea of AI, which is where this comes into play a bit as well. So sort of half the book is about people's different stories about him. And then the prologue is about sort of the modern idea of where AI is going, and showing that it can, when it could beat people at not chess, but at, there's another, what's that Chinese game with the stones, the black and white stones? Go.
Oh.
And that they built a game of Go. They built a computer to play against humans, and then they worked out that the computer could beat humans, but they took all of the soul out of it. So it's like, what's the point of playing it if it's not such a, and the questions arising now from what can AI do and where does it fit in? But so it's kind of, he said it was a really interesting book about this guy. Also the fact that it's not just facts, it's not just a memoir.
Yeah, right. So it's like a biography, but it's fictionalized, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, okay, does this have a, if you're making stuff up, but I think it's more that he's sort of filling in gaps because there's not really a,
making it like a story instead of just
giving you some
list.
And where it's going as well. I mean, I'd never heard of this guy, and I'm
me neither.
One of these people behind us.
Really good. I just remembered two more that I forgot to mention to you guys, and if we can probably squeeze it in because they're absolutely worth the read. And I should have
squeeze it, baby, do it.
Squeeze it quickly before like, I don't know, this Wi-Fi gets cut off.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry about that. The Girl Who Grew Wings by Anna Waterworth is absolutely beautiful, mythological retelling of Icarus, but it's about two sisters, and it's got a lovely cover. I mean, I can jump off and get it now. I should have had it on me. And the other one is by Emma Claire Wilson, This Child of Mine. And again, much like the one I was talking about earlier, it's about a woman who has to make a really big decision. She gets diagnosed with cancer, but she also finds out she's pregnant. It's the last opportunity she can have a child. So she's in a really awful quandary. But Emma writes it in the most beautiful, hopeful, uplifting way. It's not a depressing book at all. It's got a lovely ending. So completely different books. One's a YA fantasy, and the other one is women's fiction, but very topical, very book club. And they were brilliant reads, and I should have mentioned them earlier. So definitely two to watch.
Yeah.
They both came out this summer, actually.
Yeah, well, the girl
found it brilliant. There you go. The Girl with Three Wings. Lovely cover as well, swirly. And then This Child of Mine. Hopefully you've got there as well. I don't know. Is doing really well as well. Oh, there it is. There she's the blue and yellow one. I'm pointing. You can't see me which one I'm pointing at. I don't know what I was doing. So it's uplifting. It's got some great blurbs there on the front. It says hopeful, uplifting. But it's doing very well in book clubs at the moment. Real tearjerker. So they're two other recommendations for me this summer.
Yeah, good ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Iris, did you have any more?
I have one more from Naomi, which has a great title. It's called Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert, which is apparently this author's first YA novel. And Naomi says it's just as good as her adult romances. And it's one of those, you have all these tropes like friends to lovers, blah, blah, blah. And this is friends to enemies to lovers story. So it's about two people who were friends, and then something happened and they actually started hating each other, and then they're sort of forced to do something together, and they suddenly sort of start realizing that, oh, maybe we don't hate each other anymore. Wait a second. And it's one of those sort of grumpy heroine and sunshine hero situations, but apparently it also has a lot of emotional depth, which is nice. And Naomi says it has excellent mental health representation, which is always good to hear, diverse characters, and a very funny heroine. So honestly, it sounds great. It sounds amazing.
There you go. And that's
I'm thinking that my eldest would love that one. You've literally recommended a book per family member. I think I'm going to get my husband maniac because he loves anything with like bombs and AI. That's great for him. Graphic novels and a cute YA book. Thanks for that.
Love it. That's what we're here for.
Our job has been done.
Yeah.
And also with your books as well, Natalie. Then I think we've come to a good rounding off here. I think let's just have a look, see what if there's anything we're going to talk about for the next month or so. We always add a few things. Oh, the events. Should we mention events?
Yes.
Let's do it. We got Hannah Porter. I think I'm saying it right. Hannah Porter? Hannah Porter?
No, I'm pretty sure it's Hannah.
Yeah, because I know Hannah as well. And
there you go.
In conversation with Jeff Untermeer, and that's online. I'll be hosting that next Wednesday.
Oh, will you?
I will be there, making sure that they're going to be online and talking to the people. And then on the 13th of October, that's on the Friday in 2 weeks' time, we got our continuing open book workshop. It's what we talked about earlier, actually, from chaos to cohesion with Ellen Keith. And that's about, so you think you've finished writing your book. Well, guess what? You haven't. You still...
Never finish. There's no such thing. And then when you absolutely hate it and you don't want to read it again, you have to read it 3 more times, and then maybe you finished.
Oh, geez, that sounds fun.
That sounds like me with a CD. Yeah, it's like with an album. It's like, oh, I can't stand it. I must listen to the rest of it. It still needs work. But there you go. So that's kind of an interesting one. Maybe actually, Natalie, if you're intrigued or interested to do a workshop, we could talk about that.
I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. Oh, count me in. I do a lot of workshops. Actually, I'm at the International School of The Hague next week. I do a lot with secondary schools, and I also teach for Rain Dance Film School in London. I do lots of things about pitching and self-branding for creatives, all kinds of artists.
Yeah.
So but I never get to do face-to-face stuff. Not very well, I do, but not often, not unless I'm in the UK. So if I can do stuff over here in the Netherlands, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because that's the whole point, is to like I said, we've got readers and we've got writers, and we have an open book. We have an open mic as well that we do once a month, and from out of that has come this question, which we're fulfilling now. Like once a month, we do a different author, because Ellen Keith has got a book out this year, and she's talking about this. And we had somebody last month, Janice, talking about how to present your book, and if you want to present it to a publisher or you want to do it yourself. And so it's very interesting, because it's really bringing everybody who comes along brings a little bit of their knowledge, or a lot of their knowledge, to the storyline of these people who want to write and they don't know how to do it, you know, and
it's hard to begin with, and at least we've all made the mistakes. We learned the hard way. Let us teach you how to not make the mistakes we made.
There you go. Yeah, you want to give it on. So that's so nice, because that's an author's thing, you know. So great. Then we'll email and talk about.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'd love that.
Oh, brilliant. So we've got the last thing that was on the list was facts in Ghent in Belgium, and that's massive. In Holland we have DCC, and there we have facts. So that's on the 21st and 22nd. So if you're in Belgium, go to that.
It's really fun. It's really fun.
Last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done 2 now, and it's I don't know if this is a smart thing to say, but I think I prefer it to DCC. Yeah, I really like the setup. I really like sort of the layout of the convention center, and it's fun to be able to have make a little trip out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's a bit smaller than DCC, I think, no? Or is it about the same?
I mean, yes, but not as much as you would think.
No.
It's quite,
because I think DCC, that's in Utrecht, and that's a really, really huge halls and everything like that. You get lost in it. And I'm wondering if the Ghent one was more sort of like cozy in a way. I don't know if it can be cozy, but
it's not such a big difference. It's also quite huge.
Yeah. Okay. All right then.
Yeah.
I keep thinking there are orcs and people dressed up like Star Wars and walking around.
Absolutely. So yeah.
That's kind of why I'd go.
I was at the Comic-Con in Utrecht with you guys actually in 2017.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah.
Did you dress up as anyone in particular, or?
No, I was cosplaying the writer that nobody knew. That was
nice.
I did it really well. No, it was good. I got to. I was actually with some really wonderful writers who have become friends since then, like Laura Lamb and a few others. And and we did some panels, which was good. Gender and genre panel, and that was a really fun experience, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a nice place to meet, for sure, and just see what the vibe is actually going strong. We had a couple of years where it didn't happen, obviously, but coming out of the pandemic, it's straight on. People love it. Great. Well, I think we've got to the end of it. We've filled an hour full of books. Thanks for joining us, Natali.
Thank you that I kept disappearing and then magically reappearing in another room and then forgetting my books. I'm normally a lot more organized than that. Thank God my husband came home literally 10 minutes before I cut out and heard me screaming and came to the rescue with his Apple that I've managed to link to his phone. Oh my God.
Nice.
That was just so stressful. So thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, no worries.
It was you disappeared for a little while, but you came back. So, and you looked a bit fraught, but we didn't notice too much.
I'll get on the phone to KPN. I'm not going to have that happen again. Goodness me.
Yeah, it's crazy shit. I had that happen actually last week for the first couple of minutes of the workshop, and it was like, people in America.
I teach online. I mean, this is fun and a little bit informal. But if somebody's paid to listen to me talk, I can't have that. So
no.
Okay, sorry about that. But
no worries.
It's been a lot of fun, and thanks to those book recommendations. They're awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be round to do my shopping in a couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
You'll see you there. All right, then I'm going to press the end of live button, and we'll see you all next month at the same time.
Yes, Halloween episode.
Yeah, hello Halloween.
We're tuning in.
Yay.
Come in with your cape and whatever. All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.